go for the final time. We are green! Oh, they make contact! A terrible crash! And good evening, everybody, and welcome here to the fourth race of Season 10, the final season of the NNSCRA Snickers Cup Series, coming to you live from Atlanta Motor Speedway as we get ready for some T-shaped mile-and-a-half racing and getting ready to go down very, very shortly. A track that historically, if you look back to the 3 division races we had back in Season 9, actually brings about some good green flag racing, and if Daytona, Auto Club, Las Vegas are any indication, we should be in for some good long green flag runs in this race, as well as we've had some great green flag racing all the way up to this point so far in Season 10. The front row comprised of what's obviously been the strongest team this season so far, Twinex Racing, with Jace McLeod sitting on the pole position, his first pole of the season, and he's looking for his first win of the season. He's outside of the top 35 in driver points here, and in order to qualify your way into this season's chase, you have to be inside the top 30 in points with a victory, so McLeod's got to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone tonight, get to victory lane, and work his way up into the top 30 in the standings. Alongside of him, a driver that's going to try and maintain his points lead, that is Trent Dunham, winner of the Daytona 500, comes into this race only 6 points up on Charles Sanford, who's going to roll off from position number 3. So those two are going to have a heck of a battle at the start of this race to see what's going to go on there and who, between the two of them, may lead with the points lead. There are a couple of drivers that still also could play spoiler and take the points lead over. We'll get to them right now. They would include Michael Norman, who is 8 points back. He is third in the point standings. And then a tie for 4th place in the standings between Joshua Collard and Johnny Gardner. And they are both 13 points out. So we're going to keep our eyes on those 5 because they could be the ones that make the waves as to who is going to race their way up to the top of the leaderboard of the standings for next week's race at Watkins Glen. But without further ado, we're ready to get these cars rolling off. Twinex Racing's been 3 for 3. Will Twinex be able to go for 4 in a row? We'll find out in just a moment as we now go trackside for the command to fire up the engines. Driver, the number 99, Levi McIntyre, is about ready to get him going.
Drivers, start your engines!
As the cars roll off, driver's going to try and dethrone the team of Twinex Racing, who have won the first 3 races of the season, Trent Dunham winning the Daytona 500, and Dylan Poteet taking the last 2 races at Auto Club and Las Vegas. If you look back to last season's 3 division races, none of the drivers that went to victory lane are in this field. I believe that one of the winners was Austin Weiner, another one was Joseph Srigley, and my memory fails me as to who the Division 2 winner was of this race, but none of them are back here in Season 10, so we're going to have a brand new winner. We do not have a defending winner of this race. What can we expect to see here in 49 laps of racing? If things go green, will we see green flag pit stops? I don't know, but we're about to find out. Pace car will make the hard left-hand turn down pit road. And the Twinex Racing boys, James McLeod and Trent Dunham, will bring us down here to the start-finish line. Here we go. We are green flag racing at Atlanta. It's dusk here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, which means that the track's going to be slightly cooler than it would be if we were racing under full daytime conditions. And the inside line appears to have the most grip as McLeod goes to the lead. Charles Samper now looking for second under Trent Dunham. That's not only a battle for position, but a battle to try and take the points lead away. Johnny Gardner going to look 3 wide there. And it slips up a little bit, got a little loose on the inside line. Still going to have to remain side by side with Charles Samper, who I think may have cleared both Trent Dunham and Johnny Gardner for the second position. Indeed he has. McLeod continues to lead Samper in second. Battle is on for third. Johnny Gardner has now cleared Trent for that spot. Now looking low on Charles Samper for the runner-up position. Lyndon Wright about to make it 3 wide back there with Brandon Gonzalez and Trent Dunham, who is rapidly losing ground in the Rain-X Chevrolet. Another car losing ground is Jessica Shelton, rim riding on that high side. Might be strategy of trying to fall back because 49 laps is actually quite a long time. And pit strategy can get you up here to the front very quickly if these drivers are going to have to utilize pit strategy. Already turned 4 laps. They're driving very fast, 223 into that corner for James McLeod, the leader. Just ran his fastest lap of the race as well at 24.662 and now at 24.635. So they are not wasting any time blazing fast laps here so far. As Johnny Gardner trying to reel in James McLeod. Took a peek there out of 2. Wasn't quite able to make it stick. I don't know if it's just Johnny Gardner or if it's everybody, but there's a little bit of lack of grip in the entrance of the corner of 1 and 3. At least 2 or 3 times I've seen that 10 car almost want to step out on Johnny Gardner when he tries to use that lower groove, but he's been able to keep it together and keep going. As here you got Tim Walsh, James Silver Fox, Lyndon Wright, and Kyle Matthews all starting to make their way up here to the front now. And now battle for the lead. Johnny Gardner finally makes the move out of 4 to the inside of James McLeod, and new leader is going to be Johnny Gardner in the 10. It's certainly a much better season for Johnny Gardner than it was back in Season 9. Season 9, that poor team, that 0-1 team, couldn't even buy a top 10 finish. Here this season, Johnny Gardner has been very, very good. Tied for 4th in the standings after 3 races. This is a team that started out Daytona Speed Weeks as one of the slowest cars on track and came back, got a great finish in the 500, has been consistent ever since. Right behind him, Kyle Matthews, another driver that's also been very consistent this season. The only driver from Hendrick Dowley Motorsports to go to victory lane last year. That was at Darlington. Kyle Matthews comes into this race 6th in the point standings. The highest running this season so far of the Hendrick Dowley Motorsports Chevrolets again. They're almost 4 wide back there, almost rubbing doors. That was Charles Samper and Trent Dunham. Those two have not left each other at all. And here comes Austin Mongold, looking to be rookie of the race here. He's up to the 3rd position in that 60 machine. After 3 races, Mongold is 16th in points. He picked up 12 spots in the standings after last week's race at Las Vegas. Samper and Dunham have now worked their way up to the 4th and 5th positions. And if you're going to make it a 3-man fight for the points lead, there is Michael Norman trying to work his way through traffic. Just went almost 4 wide underneath Lyndon Wright, Brandon Gonzalez, and Chris Washer. Now he's starting to work his way up here. So the top 3 in points are now up inside the top 7. Dunham in 4th, Samper in 5th, and Norman in the 7th position. The car separating them is the Zach Buchanan Golden Corral Chevrolet. Whoa, Trent Dunham. Couldn't tell, but it looked like he almost went to the apron to try to get to the inside of Kyle Matthews as he's trying to fight his way back to the front. Only 2 leaders so far in this race, James McLeod and Johnny Gardner. So far, those are the only 2 that would benefit from laps-led bonus points. One driver that I did notice when I brought the ticker up was running at the rear of the field as a driver that came in tied for 4th in points with Johnny Gardner, and that was Joshua Collard. See if he's made up any ground yet. There he is. 37th position. He's gotten around Danny Wells, Levi McIntyre, Chris Dollerton, Benjamin Miles. Now trying to run down Joshua Michaels and Jacob Lawler. He's got a long ways to go. But he's got time to get there, though. Just hitting the strike now, lap 14 going on the board. He's still got roughly 36 laps remaining. Trent Dunham to the inside now of Austin Mongold for second. This all going on behind the Johnny Gardner Valvoline Muppets Chevrolet. Here comes Trent. Ooh, Trent tried to make the move there into one. Now we'll have to try and make it out of two, and he's got a rear decklet full of Lyndon Wright. Lyndon Wright would love to be able to pick up a victory here tonight at Atlanta, because next week we go to a track that he won at back in Season 9, and that was Watkins Glen. I'm also going to say, guys, and this is a spoiler, and I'll say this at the end of the video too for those that don't see this portion of the race. When I did the recordings, unfortunately, I had Watkins Glen in my mind as the fourth race of the schedule. So I recorded Watkins Glen as if Atlanta had never happened. And actually, the actual schedule was we go to Daytona, Auto Club Las Vegas, then Atlanta, and then Watkins Glen. So I do apologize. I do not make any references at all to this race at Watkins Glen. So just be aware of that. That is something that happened. I got the schedule confused. That was my bad, and I do apologize. But if I do not mention who the winner of this race is in the Watkins Glen race, do not be surprised if that is the reason. It's Trent Dunham. Going to go to the inside here of Johnny Gardner. Going to at least try and lead the lap at the line. Did he get it? Yes, he did. 3 1,000ths. Wait, that 100ths rather. 3 100ths of a second. Trent Dunham is leading this race now. So the points leader going to lead and get bonus points here. And there's Michael Norman realizing it. Trying to run down Trent Dunham for the points lead. Now he's got to get up there and lead a lap. Trying to get in the inside of that left rear quarter panel. Will Trent Dunham leave the door open for him into one? No, instead, Michael Norman gets moved up the track. Randy Gonzalez will get to his inside. There's Tim Walsh and the pole sitter, James McLeod, working his way back to the front now as well. One driver that's conspicuously missing from this pack is the two-time in a row winner so far this season, Dylan Pote. I think I just saw him back there. There he is. Currently scored in the 18th position, now trying to work underneath his good buddy Dylan Young. Teammate Seth Cole just ahead as well. Pote's not made his way up into the top 10 yet, but he's still within striking distance. This is anti-Pote-like, at least here for Season 10. Dylan Pote's been right up there inside of the top 5 pretty much all the time in both the Auto Club and Las Vegas races. Now he's just kind of riding around mid-pack. He's going to lose a spot to another teammate in Sean Galligan. Meanwhile, up front, two-car breakaway. Trent Dunham leading Michael Norman, then a ways back before you get to a possible battle for third between Tim Walsh and Brandon Gonzalez. Walsh trying to get the run there out of 4. Not going to be able to quite do it as Gonzalez clears him on the high side. Michael Norman trying to pick up the victory here. Remember, he almost had a shot at winning last week at Las Vegas. But was unable to do it, was unable to hold off Dylan Pote at the very end. Trying to look for some redemption here as he's trying to get around Trent Dunham. Michael Norman trying to pick up a chase spot here and trying to become the first non-Twinex driver to go to victory lane here in Season 10. Trent Dunham trying to make it 4 for 4 between two Twinex drivers here in the first 4 races of the season. The defending champion Brandon Gonzalez, who lost 5 spots last week, down to 14th in points, trying to work his way back up into the top 10 in the standings to defend his title. And I've been very impressed with Austin Mongold. He was strong last week at Las Vegas. He's very strong here tonight, now in the 5th position, just ahead of Tim Walsh. Mongold as well, maybe making a case for himself to get up inside the top 10 in points. James McLeod, we talked about how he needs a good run here, comes outside the top 35 in points. He's currently tucked in line, and I believe that's the 8th position. And how about Zach Buchanan? Keep an eye on him as well. Buchanan picked up 7 spots last week, up to 25th in points, and right now running inside the top 10 as he's trying to pick up more spots. It's Charles Sanford now going to move him out of line. That's a battle, I believe, for the 9th position. While at the front, it's still Trent Dunham, then Michael Norman. The gap those two enjoyed is now gone. Johnny Gardner starting to reel them in as he's working to the inside of Brandon Gonzalez for the third position. Trent Dunham, though, as soon as his car got out in front, he really did a good job of getting up there so he could get in that clean air, and he has really not let anybody challenge him. The only challenge he's had has really been Michael Norman, and Norman's just not been able to make the move yet. Tries to ride a slighter, lower groove there out of 4. Kind of kept it as a status quo distance. Now, Michael Norman's got some problems because Johnny Gardner's right on his back bumper, going to try and take second place away. And Trent Dunham really had to fight to get himself to the front here, too, because if you remember, he got caught on the high side, slipped all the way back somewhere just to the, I think, maybe like the 9th, 10th position, but finally made his way to the inside and charged his way to the front. This is actually very much looking like the Trent Dunham of Season 8 when he went to victory lane 3 times. And one of those 3 times in Season 8 was at the track we're going to next week, Watkins Glen. Michael Norman, can he get the move this time? He stepped out, got some clean air on the nose. Trent's leaving a little bit of room for him to make the move, but Norman cannot fit his WWE Chevrolet into that space. He'll have to ride around behind him once again, heading into 1. Norman is trying as hard as he can to get by Trent Dunham. Dunham's kind of almost toying with him, giving him a little tiny space down there on the inside line, but in order to get the speed off the corner, Norman could not let his car be way down there on the bottom of the racetrack, as one car's on pit road already. Don't know who that was. That was a yellow car, so it could be Joshua Collard. Jump back here and see. I think it is. Yep, Joshua Collard and Tim Walsh. Both the first ones on the pit lane, and here comes Trent Dunham giving up the lead. He's coming to pit road this lap. Zach Buchanan is also in, Lyndon Wright, Charles Sanford, Kyle Matthews, James Silverfox, Stephen Pollard III. I see McCrory, London, Lawler, Hudson, William Duncan, Cody Lamas, Benjamin Miles, Ryan Acosta, Danny Wells, Jessica Shelton, who's that one other car? Joshua Michaels and Chris Dollerton. And here comes the other ones. Michael Norman is in, along with Johnny Gardner, Jessica Shelton. Everybody coming down pit road here, and boy, with cars leaving pit road and entering pit road, this could be a little hectic. Seth Cole actually stayed out. He led a lap. And he should be coming in this lap, I would assume. Oh, I think there was some contact there between Chris Dollerton and James McLeod. And now Seth Cole is in, along with Dylan Young and Sean Galligan. Those are the last 3 that have to come in and pit. So let's jump to the 52 of Seth Cole. I don't know if he rightly is going to come out as the leader. I would be slightly surprised if he did. Dylan Young, his service completed. He's down and away. See if he can beat Seth Cole out. He didn't come down too far behind Seth Cole, but nope, Seth Cole's going to get out first. And here comes Michael Norman and Tim Walsh coming on by. That right there could be the leader, but where's Trent? For the one of Trent Dunham. There's the one of Trent Dunham. I think Michael Norman's cycling out as the leader over Tim Walsh. So Michael Norman using some pit strategy there, perhaps. Or maybe his pit crew just gave him a lightning fast pit stop. But Michael Norman looking for some redemption from last week at Las Vegas. He is indeed the leader. Tim Walsh in second, and then it's a long gap back to the third position. That is currently held by Trent Dunham, Lyndon Wright in fourth. Fifth place, Johnny Gardner. Sixth place, John Cittadino. Where did he come from? Seventh, Austin Mongold. Joshua Collard's now up to 8th. Talk about strategy. Ninth, Brandon Gonzalez, and Kyle Matthews is going to complete the top 10. What strategy by John Cittadino and Joshua Collard, now both up inside the top 10 here. Collard, we talked about, was running near the rear of the field. As here comes Tim Walsh for the lead, and he got to the inside. Norman left the door open. Walsh was squirrely, but still managed to get to the inside of the left rear. Battle is on for the lead between Michael Norman and Tim Walsh here at Atlanta. Which line's going to get the advantage? And if these two continue to battle, will that allow Trent Dunham, Lyndon Wright, Johnny Gardner, and that other pack to be able to reel these guys in? Walsh trying to clear. I believe he has. Norman, I think, may have just given the spot up voluntarily in order to now be in the hunter's seat and make Tim Walsh the hunter. No, crossover move into 1. Norman going to dive it down into 1, and he's going to take the lead coming out of 2. A little bit of cat and mouse here between Michael Norman and Tim Walsh. Michael Norman, third in the standings. Tim Walsh last week moved from 31st to 28th in points. And he's going to now go to the inside. It's a game of crossovers right now between Tim Walsh and Michael Norman. The question is, though, who's going to have the crossover inside line advantage coming out of 4 in the final lap? But these guys, as they're having fun with each other, that other group is starting to reel them in slowly but surely. So they can't waste too much time here battling amongst themselves. As at the line, we got 11 laps to go, 10 next time by. That second pack with Lyndon Wright and company have cut down by 0.3 of a second the advantage these two were holding. They are slowly reeling them in. Don't know if they're going to have enough time. They might, but only if these two, Walsh and Norman, continue to battle amongst themselves. If they're tucked up like this, nose to tail, they may be able to turn some fast lap times and move ahead of 3rd, 4th, 5th on back. It's looking like tonight's rookie of the race is going to be Austin Mongol, as he is running solidly inside the top 10, currently in the 8th position. And now Norman falls off the back bumper of the 5-Hour Energy Toyota Camry for just a brief moment. But right now, it is looking good for drivers to break the Twinex Racing win streak. Right now, the top 3 non-Twinex cars, Trent Dunham, the highest running of the Twinex cars, in the 4th position, but he's over 3 seconds back from the lead. 8 to go as they hit the stripe. It's Walsh out of Gibbs Waltrip Mayonnaise Racing. Michael Norman out of Michael Norman Motorsports. That time by Lyndon Wright only cut it down by 1/10. So as the laps tick away, time is running short. We may be looking at the only 2 drivers that will battle it out for this victory. And if you remember back, we talked about Joshua Collard, what a comeback he's had moving up to 6th. Well, he and Tim Walsh both were the first 2 to hit pit road. You gotta think it was the fresh Goodyear Eagles allowing them to turn fast lap times, being the first ones to hit pit road, that allowed both of them to be up here where they are currently in the latter stages of this race. But Tim Walsh has got a rear deck lid full of Michael Norman. Now, Norman was taken out of the equation for a win last week at Las Vegas. You can bet he does not want to be denied here tonight at Atlanta. But Tim Walsh stands between him and victory. Who is it going to be? Here comes Norman looking at the inside, and I think he backed down a little bit there. I think he got loose on that inside line, had to kind of get the brakes just a little bit more than he wanted to, and now he's going to lose a little bit more ground once again. It's now basically 1/10 of a second each lap for Lyndon Wright that he's chipping away, and they would have to have somewhere roughly about 30 laps to run these guys down if he were going to continue at that stage. So it looks like Lyndon Wright's not going to be in the hunt for this win. Neither will Joshua Collard. Those two, I think, actually are right now in a battle for 3rd. They are. Collard going to the inside, working his way up into the top 3 now. John Cittadino right with him as well. How about Cittadino? That's a driver that's 26th in points. A well-needed run for him right now. Currently up inside the top 5, and then there's everybody back behind them. Back to 10th place, Brandon Gonzalez. But the battle up front has not gone away. Michael Norman is still there. The only thing is, Norman looked really loose trying to make a move to the inside that last time. Is he going to be able to make it stick if he tries to get to the inside of Tim Walsh here in these latter stages? It'll be 3 to go here at the line. Walsh, Norman, those 2 will settle it. Collard is in 3rd, but he's over 2.5 seconds back. He will not be a factor unless something drastically happens to the front 2. Toyota looking for their first win of the season. Chevy looking for their 4th straight victory of Season 10. 2 to go at the line. Is Norman just riding, just biding his time, just waiting to pounce? Or does he not have anything left in the tank for Tim Walsh? Walsh running the middle groove, the fastest way around this racetrack. If Norman's going to pass him, he's got to stick his car somewhere where Tim Walsh ain't. And he's now trying to get a little bit of distance between himself and Walsh, maybe to get a little bit of a draft and get right up to him to get a run on him, maybe here into turn 1, maybe into turn 3. White flag displayed one more time around. Michael Norman's got one last chance. Here he comes, running hard there through turn number 1 and 2. Down the back straightaway, will he have any kind of a run to make a move on Tim Walsh? Still a car length in hand for Tim Walsh. Norman gonna drive it hard here into 4, but he's not gonna be able to make it. Out of turn 4 for the final time. Pit strategy works for Tim Walsh. Toyota goes to victory lane for the first time this season. Tim Walsh goes to victory lane for the first time this season. And the Twinex Racing streak is broken at race number 4 at Atlanta. And Michael Norman, a bridesmaid once again, a little bit of a tap there to Tim Walsh. That could mean one of two things. Either it's a congratulatory bump to Walsh saying, hey, I couldn't do anything to get by you, congrats on the win, or maybe there was a block at some point in that battle that Norman didn't quite appreciate. But one way or the other, the end result is that Tim Walsh is the winner here tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Gibbs Waltrip Mayonnaise Racing gets their first win of Season 10. Tim Walsh also maybe making a case for himself to be in this season's chase for the championship. Came in 28th in the point standings, so he is inside the top 30 in points, which means he would be eligible if the chase were to begin right now. So 4 races, 3 different winners: Dunham, Poteet, and now Tim Walsh. Who else is going to put their name in the hat to be a contender for this season's final Snickers Cup Series championship? Walsh with the win. Michael Norman going to finish in second, though. That was a great run for him. Norman has been strong this season, I'll tell you what. And he's going to remain inside the top 3 points. He may actually take second place away from Charles Sanford after tonight's race. Third place for Joshua Collard. That was a great strategy by both him and Tim Walsh. The first 2 drivers hit pit road on that cycle of green flag pit stops, finished first and third tonight. So Collard will also remain inside the top 5 in points. Lyndon Wright, nice run for him. A guy that came in 7th in point standings. He'll be in the top 10 in points still with a nice top 5 of 4th. And John Cittadino, as I mentioned, was 28th in the points coming into this race. Or I'm sorry, not 28th, 26th in the points coming into this race. And a nice solid top 5 run for him. Trent Dunham got out there, led some laps, so he'll get some bonus points, and a nice solid top 10 run for him in 6th, so he will remain atop the point standings. Johnny Gardner, we saw him out in front tonight as well. He'll finish in the 7th position. He will also remain inside the top 5 in points. Kyle Matthews, another driver that came in running well in points, 6th in the point standings. Kept his car inside the top 10 all night, gets 8th. Austin Mongold will be the rookie of the race with a 9th place finish. And completing the top 10 will be the defending champion, Brandon Gonzalez. Lost some spots last week after Las Vegas. He may gain them back here tonight with a top 10 finish. So thank you all so much for watching here at tonight's race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Again, like I said, mid-race, if you're going to watch next week's race at Watkins Glen, please be aware that I ended up recording Watkins Glen assuming that it was going to be race number 4, and therefore made no reference to the winner, Tim Walsh, of this race, or any of the events that took part in this race. So just keep that in mind. Watkins Glen is going to be race number 5. I ended up recording it at race number 4, so if there's any confusion there, I do apologize, but that is just what happened. So I do apologize if I do not make any references to the Atlanta race, but that is what happened. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed tonight's race, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We'll show you now your full finishing results from tonight's race, your rookie points, and your overall points heading into next week at the first road course stop of Watkins Glen. You've been watching a production of the NNSCRA, Offline Racing, at its best. Good night from Atlanta. Whoa!
Whoa! Stop gonna win a big win. The arsonist won.
We can lick the tears. I think he's good. I didn't know you. Where are you going? Can I do now?